something I should probably show you guys. It kind of came up in the video I just done on patterns. So let me try to explain this as best as I can. All fabrics that are woven have what they call warp and weft, and that's basically your side to side from both ways. Warp is, I think, this way, where weft is that way, if I've got it correct. And you have your threads, running through each other, kind of like this grid here. Actually, this is a good example. And your selvage is your very straight factory edge. And the way fabrics work, like if you pull on them this way straight, they're very taut, very strong. This isn't really a stretchy fabric at all. If you pull on it straight the other way, very taut, very strong. But if you pull on it diagonally, like this is cut, you will find, notice how that stretches. And that's why when you're doing your patterns and you've got your grain lines, you need to get things lined up right, because if you have something crooked, then when something is hanging on your body, you may have one side that's hanging this way, but yet the other side could be a little bit this way, and it's going to stretch. It can make things like a pant leg be longer than the other, or a skirt hang a little funny. It can do a lot of things to mess up your sewing and make things not come out the way they should. It is a very, very important thing to learn, and I'm sure people have a lot more technical terms than I do, but it can be important in quilting, and how many stitches per inch that you can get when you're quilting even. And that's generally like with all cotton fabrics, but that's how I learned the terms warp and weft, was watching a video on that. But it kind of makes sense to explain when you're cutting things out, because bias is a very common sewing term, and that means, that diagonal. This quilting ruler here I have, it's got these little lines marked on it. That way, if you need to cut bias tape, of course that's obviously your straight, but what you would do is line up the one that's 180 degrees. I think it's 180. That's 45 degrees. Who am I kidding? Okay, 45 degrees. You would line that up, and then you've got, going this way, of course assuming you were to actually cut that, you would have a perfect diagonal. And that is very, very important if you're trying to cut bias tape, which is what these little fellows are used for, is when you're trying to make bias tape. It folds over and is a very useful thing when you want to, say, finish a neckline or something like that. Bias tape is something that, because it has that stretch, can go around curves easier. Things that would ordinarily be very hard to hem, bias tape is good for. It's also good just to finish edges on things. Sometimes you'll see old antique aprons with bias tape edgings, and because its ability to stretch, it can go around curves and corners and stuff. Very easy, very useful, but it can add up and be expensive to buy, so that's kind of also a little lesson in how to cut it. If you have a ruler like this, it makes getting your angles easy, because all you got to do is line up with that selvage, and then right up the side you got your perfect diagonal. You move over, an inch if you want inch wide or what have you, cut it, and there you go. And then you also have bias tape that perfectly matches your fabric. You don't have to go buy it. That's something I just don't really buy, but a lot of people do. It's a convenience item. But in general, hopefully that explains a little bit about bias on fabric. There are actually some patterns that will want you to cut something on an angle on that bias, and it can make a dress lay or drape very seductively, actually. Something that I personally try to avoid, but some people obviously aim for in today's society. But just be aware of that some things are cut on the bias, some things aren't. And I should say that cutting something on the bias isn't always because somebody's trying to make something hang seductively. There may be very good reasons to cut something on the bias, so that was just one of the examples that popped in my head. But hopefully I've explained that. I'm I'm probably, again, not the best person to explain this, but I did my best. If you have more questions, hopefully I can answer them. If not, I'll try to find you the answer. Have a very blessed day.